Hello, folks. Welcome to tonight's poetry reading featuring Lynette Reini-Grandell, Wayne A. Gilbert, and Julie Adrian. As usual, I'll start reading a few poems of mine. This one's called Distorted Perception. What causes this? What makes one see a cloud and decide it's a meteorite, heading straight for me, me, me? Are you feeling punished, persecuted? Is there an emotional thundercloud overhead? Are you dodging lightning, finding there are no words to help? When the sun flashes its rainbow, you only see the ground is wet. Over leaves and branches wind scattered, the aftermath of clouds. You wonder why no one brings their gift horse around. After all, you never mouth looked too obsessed with clouds. Have you struggled with the downpour of desertion, accused of retribution, while you know it does not satisfy the right of cirrus crowds? And what about peace? Is that not to be longed for? Is that sign the sign of the drugged, the pleasantly insane, or one with clouded vision? On the porch, watching the shape of clouds, do you dream someone is deserting you? Then drearily determined, sometimes dreams come true. This poem is called Looking Forward. Looking forward. Someday my toes may curl up, or even my fingers. Someday it'll be so easy for me to simply fall down. Hopefully no one will be looking. Today I should practice getting up. Someday I will realize how important those movement exercises are. For now, I walk in mindfulness, making sure I move my arms as I walk in the correct way. Someday you won't hear me when I talk or read my writing, but then you can't read it now. Someday the pills will lose their effectiveness. The tremors will become constant. Someday I may be carrying a card that says, I'm not drunk, just Parkinson's, officer. Someday I may not move at all. But for now, I will do what others do, continue to stride. And the last poem I'll read, Premonition. Solitary as a tree in February. Not even an empty bird's nest to show I once had companionship. The wind picks up, a few branches leave me. A squirrel chased by a dog runs to another tree for safety. These dreams must stop. I wake up with the vision of a frozen trunk in a barren field. Our first reader tonight is Lynette Reini-Grandell. She's the author of Wild Things, the trans glam punk rock love story, in the poetry collection Wild Verge, Approaching the Gate, which was a winner of the 2015 Northeastern Minnesota Book Award for Poetry. She teaches English and creative writing at Normandale Community College and the Loft. It has received support for her work from the Finlanda Foundation and the Minnesota State Arts Board. A multidisciplinary collaborator, she performs at spoken word venues with the Baco Poetry Company and the jazz collective Sonogrip. And her poetry is part of a permanent installation at the Carlton Arms Art Hotel in Manhattan. She lives in Minneapolis on the ancestral homeland of the Dakota people. Take it away, Lynette.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm just going to read from a collection I'm putting together from some new poems. Though people have heard me read before, they've heard some of these poems, so they're not that new. But let's see. The first one is called The Metamorphoses. I have lived inside so many creatures to pursue you, and you so many selves. How did I become a flying skein of geese, mounting smoky stratus clouds and welling with your name? 1,000 wings beat greedily against my spine. We are a murmuration, dark starlings, hundreds winding, folding our transparent veil in tumbling turns above the tawny harvest fields. The orchards now stand empty of their apples, but darling, let me light that feline fire. Flip me like a mouse you toy with, and be amazed at how I change for you. a gold-toothed grizzly rearing to the challenge, a gasp between the lightning bolt and sound. The curtains part, and Isis crests her golden throne. I've lost who is the cat who laps a silver saucer, and who's reduced to liquid, disappearing. One of us the hunger, one the thirst. The next poem is called In the Giant's Castle. How I have loved and feared this place, my dear. For you, I keep on lighting little fires. For you, I descend the sinews of this many tendrilled root and wait for music telling me to climb back up its leafy rungs. That part of it must be for me, my hunger, that doorway in my chest, a massive weight ascending, swinging open wide. At daybreak, I begin to creep around the edges of the giant's kitchen. I find a cupboard door and begin to pull out ingredients: face mask, pillow, music stand, a heaping tablespoon of rhinestones, some birthday candles, propane lighter, yeast. Now I light the burner under this stew pot of desires, add some sugar, stir it with the ladle mother used for soup. Will you smell the yeast rise, hear the stealthy bubbles bloat? You must be on your way. Even now I feel a heavy thrill as you approach and tune my golden harp for you. Here's another poem. The title is First Song of the Sylph. I sat by water's edge one day, I sat by water's edge one night, and ached to greet an arcane light that flickered just beyond my ken, like featherings without a bird, and then the water lifted, moonstruck, something hidden, something core, something with a stony road, four-footed strode beside my sleep, its marrow deep, sat next to me and watched. Here's the second song of the sylph. There are 4 of these so far. All the forest listens, quiet, calm, the pines, the mossy faces, the gray-green birch watch intent. The nose and eye of a tree, powdery dirt skirt cast in circle around the small vole's hole, a pregnant darkness in the earth. All these the air you breathe, and you become the mystery of a hollow horned log, a boat crying in the middle of a thicket. How do you get home from here? Put your shoes on the wrong feet, the voices say. Turn your clothes inside out. Only then will you find what has been pinching you. Here is the third song of the sylph. Mother wind, I am a chorus, far too many minds. A second sea is swirling, dimly bent on love. A gabled house, woodwind music, a garden no one sowed. Also the fat silences of trees and bees. A grassy meadow pulsing with its hidden sound. But the truth deserves a better maker. I miss the fish that swim beneath the mountains, the sound a hawk makes and its echoing, the taste of ocean whitecaps and their sting. Here's the 4th song of the sylph. Oh, my elementals, I have fed on stolen lives and grow rigid with memory. So many things lost. Bird anthems bell my branches as my limbs ascend toward light. The mother blue jay's low tones, lullabies, I am here, a whiskey hymnody, a liquid sound, like water whistling in hard, hollowed wood. I was once a crone casting out demons, harbingers haunting all the thin places. Now all that's left is the taste of my tongue pressed against my chipped teeth. But each corvid night the sky fills with companions, the bear and its North Star, and Verso, the pike of death's deep lagoon, pensive fish, dour whale. Its jaws snap as it circles again and again. Okay, back to a little bit more of love poems. This one's called Moon Love. The moon, 3/4 full, blazed its ley line beacon on the rippling water, leading straight to her. Or was it him? It depended who you asked or when. The night waves lapped the shore behind the house, exerting their cool, silent pull and push. Ibis-headed god or radiant goddess, someone's shining light beckoned, and I walked on water bathed in brilliant fire. The moon was changing ever, fuller, large, and then it waned and went at times completely dark. There were years I could not even see my hands. A low-slung island, cat-like, stretched and watched a miracle. Light returned, a sliver at a time, until the path on water shone like stars, returning one more time. This one's called In Love's Kitchen. Here the stove whistles and the plates sing. In the cupboards all the sweet and salted treats abide and wait for their unwrapping. The cook with deep affection tends a saucepan, fragrant with cumin, coriander, turmeric. She stirs the contents, lifts the spoon, and blows on it while she waits for it to cool, then brings it to her lips. She is rapt, attentive to each flavor, each luscious drop of sustenance, so delightful in the present, which she dreams of sharing in the future, even as the present moment slips into the past. Outside, a flock of sparrows at the feeder trills with every seed they swallow. A fat squirrel thumps its hind feet. Inside, table set, she unwraps each tall candle, tucks each taper in its glittering sconce. Steam rises from the rice, and warmth is everywhere. An enchantment fills the room. Please light the candles, she urges. Here is a book of matches. Here's another poem. Weird Sisters. The forest mother showed me how she wove her hair in 3 plaits, one for metal, one for foresight, another for her sister, verdant hope. Other sisters, past, present, need, all drew water from the great tree's roots. Someone gave an eye for wisdom. Those days were solitary birds to me, bright eyes waiting in the dark. Then a birch tree wept. Secrets flooded from the dead magician's mouth. Here is where it all begins, she said, one and then another, tales of how the dead would rise. How did we come to this, I wondered, that the buried needed miracles to raise them? A procession filled my vision, ghost dancers on the plains beckoning back their dead to form an army a world away, the valley of dry bones, their cries for incarnation. And then I remembered that the grandmother and her granddaughter, who walked through the forest in her red riding hood, were hid inside the wolf all along. And I'll just read a couple more poems. This one's called Inside the Wolf. At least grandmother was there to reassure me. I felt stupid. It is the role of youth to be unwise, she countered. Without these grave errors, all our stories cease. One answers a shaggy stranger in the woods. One opens the door to an adventure, and here we meet together in this dark place. Soon the wolf will also make an error, and light will shine on us from his breastbone to his privates. Grandmother, I exclaimed, that's not how the story goes. Of course it is, she said. I heard a duck quack somewhere in the gloom. Stand back, my grandmother said. I see the star of blood appearing. And yes, I think this will be the last poem. This is called What the Rain Brings. A violin's short strings, clunking first, then a massive welter to a storm. Are you afraid of rivers? Are you afraid of drowning? Once I went to see the swelling creek drawn to its brimming swirls. I slipped and I fell in. My rubber boots churned against the flow. My half-sized body yearned to stand upright. Somehow my hands gripped the muddy bank. No, they gripped the tall grass rooted there. I pulled myself away from that round culvert flowing underneath the street and down the hill. I pulled myself out of that foaming creek, headstrong in its fight to see the lake. Are you afraid of death? Are you afraid of angry women? I am that angry woman. Don't be so afraid. My river has so much love in it. Sometimes it just looks like rage. Thank you.
My river has so much love in it, sometimes it looks like rage. That's great. Thanks, Lynette. Next up, we have Wayne A. Gilbert. Wayne is a retired teacher and teacher of teachers. He has degrees in English, history, and religion, as well as graduate work in educational psychology. Since retiring in 2012, he has published 3 chapbooks: Mag Mammy, Set from the Ashes, and most recently, Sacred Chill, poems written during the first year of the pandemic. Wayne was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2005. Through the Davis Finney Foundation, Wayne leads 2 monthly poetry workshops on Zoom for people with Parkinson's. He refers to his work as metaphor medicine. The Davis Finney Foundation has posted a web page of videos and text featuring Wayne's partly jazz poems. Take it away, Wayne.
Hi, good evening. I want to dedicate this reading to my incarcerated and formerly incarcerated friends and for Parkinson's Awareness Month. These are excerpts and improvisations from a long poem I've been working on for quite a while called Micrographia Jam, Memoirish End-of-Life Reflections. I'm told I am not finished grieving, anxiety being a measure of how I'm not responding appropriately to my soul music, the universe calling, calling, calling. I'm not plugged in, tuned in, dialed in, synced up, networked with my guardian angels. So I better start listening, doing the work which constitutes, reconstructs, rejuvenates, revives, reconnects, the flow, bro, big bang sensations, storming wind waves, rumbling sensei drums, eruptions, spontaneous perpetuation, combustification jam, homeostatic entropy, plasticity, genetic jam. Improvisational improbability chaos jam, the whole shabib-oppin' shenani-nanny-nanigans, ex nihilo jam, the sinna qua qua qua, na 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 na, baby jam. Grief work is hard, so I write poems. Holding a pen is increasingly difficult and painful, but I still love the kinesthetic dopa delight. The feel of pen skating across the page. I love seeing those thin lines, loops, curves, group themselves, feel words, phrases, entire thoughts emerge. I type some of them, hundreds, perhaps thousands, printed on, stacked flat on shelves beside my desk, standing straight up in huge 3-wing binders across a shelf in my bedroom closet. To what end? I have no idea. I write them because I must. Poems are medicine. Poems are life. Poems are shot of dopamine, grace, mercy, forgiveness. I say grief is the measure of adoration, sorrow the measure of delight. Healing has nothing to do with cure. Cure is just a word for broken promise for a lot of us. It's okay though, truly fine. Wellness comes when someone's hair ends someone else's fear. Simple as that. So I'm dying. Who isn't? I'm not interested in the destination product. I'm interested in the sound rush, swoosh, and tumble of rapids, the stones themselves, jagged, polished skulls giving up their glossolalia, the pouring torrent noise, unpunctuated. Take magma, how it urges molten upward, outward, toward ocean ridges, mantle plumes, melting rock, plasticified under rising pressure, rises according to geothermal gradient bleeding through the crust. My poems are one long suicide note, one multiversed body, its symptoms, both progressive degenerative conditions. Poetry takes a lot of work, exactly like Parkinson's, lung disease, conscious breath work, playing the interstitial saxo, wheeze, gargle, esophageal, freeze, phone. Practice, 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 practice. My poetry life began at 19 in Mannahatta and Amherst, transported there on the voice of my teacher, his scat lectures, maniacally associative, melancholically introspective, even shamanically brilliant, mad, exquisite, mindful, the first free jazz I never heard again before I returned to it 30 years later. That turn of the century, Y2K moment, coming around would destroy the civilized world's infrastructure, which had already happened to me in his classes. And again over the years until I wearied of dressing like Walt and sought asylum in the free scene, all the free, wildest free stream, listened and listened and listened to every instrumental interbeing playfest. All the noise I could find, the strange lineups, the awe bursts. I struck the wonder lode and listened, 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 learned, learned, learned. Space, pace, shape, timeless intervals, silent pulse weight. Now, this underlapping, overlapping, then listening. Certain days, ways, daze me, blaze, amaze. I'm fire. I'm hot blood splash, molten brew alive still. A one-man blues man. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Boom boom. Do 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 do. Jam sesh. Da 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 da. Scat rush. Reborn. Listening. All that bump noise. Holy Ghost. Magma bursts. Anguish outlets. Sweet lullabies. Love, love, love ballads. Expletives. Prayers. All that. Oh, man, all that. Oh, listening. All that is credible evidence. The universe is, after all, quite personal and adores each and every one of us. This is me, not waiting, now, to live now, unafraid of shadows, now at home in the darkest places where blood now still circulates, now keeps me warm enough for composition, free improvisations, invitations, invocations, provocations, cries for help, 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 especially graffiti. I am this calm, momentous darkness flow. My daughter called the other day. She said, I can't remember the last time I heard you laugh, Daddy. And she started crying, choked back her tears, asked, what brings you joy? referencing my rationale for refusing medication for my second progressive degenerative diagnosis. I explained it this way: more donuts and ice cream. I want more donuts and ice cream. Donuts and ice cream. No one ever died wishing they'd taken more life-sucking, energy-busting pharmaceuticals to be more certain they'd expire slowly in a nursing home stupor for their final years. The poet Jack Gilbert, no relation, said, "Music is in the saxophone only when it's played." I couldn't agree more. So I'm dying. Who isn't? Grief work is hard. Practice, practice, practice. Da-da-ba-dee-doo-ba-da. Wah-wah-wah. Ba-dee-doo-da. Ba-dee-doo-da-da. Ba-dee-doo-da-da. Wah-wah. Ah. Boom, boom, boom. Dum, 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 dum. A poem is a nightclub where you can play unafraid to be so very human forever. Enter fearless. Well, I'll read one more short one, and which is not from that memoirish poem, if I can find it. I've been retired for 13 years next month, and have been quite surprised how often my dreams can still be quite disturbed by worries like grading papers and the schedule next fall and all that sort of thing, which I don't have to worry about anymore and haven't for years, but still it stays part of one's life until it isn't. For this stage of my life, cleaning out my office, clearing it completely of all the last files, books, artifacts, remnants, clutter stuff I valued most from the life I abandoned years ago. No longer needed, no longer relevant. Junk to the dumpster, however sad. Unburden myself. Welcome more inner space. Finally. Thanks to those of you who are listening out there, and have a great evening.
Thanks, Wayne. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Julie Adrian. She is a writer and educator living on a small farm in Minnesota with her family and dogs. Her work has recently appeared in Time of Singing, the Orchard Poetry Review, the Alchemy and Miracles Anthology, and other journals. Her first collection is Under a Private Sky, published by Kelsey Books. As a first grader, Julie began keeping a journal. After college, she set out to master the craft of writing, working with journalists, editors, and writers in Washington, D.C. She loves writing about what is there, and seeing through imagery and nature in everyday life. Take it away, Julie.
Thank you, Ron, for having me on. I'll read a couple new poems here. Moving Freely. It is mid-December, but it doesn't look it. The leaves are wet on the ground in a murky, dark fall. My son dreams every night of snow, the woolly white blanket on the forest floor. They say they are taking things away this year, like wings and warmth in the old tradition of snow. I once told a friend, if each of us used our gifts, there'd be so much good you couldn't cut it with a shearing knife. I hear the people in the church saying more loudly when busloads were carted off to the camps. They didn't stop singing and go save the world. Look, the deer move freely, the fish traverse rivers, the birds fly the azure world. But they say don't breathe, move in a closet from now on. They live in what smells of death and are told no gifts, even coal this year. If you follow the thread of light, the shiny silky filament, the world's souls form a gentle creature. When they silently bump into each other, you take their hand. We form a wreath churning soft, peaceful light, fledging off the ground. Moving free, brown grasses. I am weary trying to explain to him the grass doesn't always grow green. I told him about the castles made by angels. We didn't have the powder for the cement. He hangs himself if he knows. He doesn't care enough. His suffering is too great. I walked in on someone who hung himself. He left life and stars everywhere we were cleaning up with a dustpan 2 decades later. Whole packages of chewed up gum left downstairs to build up the nerve. I used to eat a square of chocolate to live among a constant chorus saying you're not doing it right, when weariness beat in the bones. What I needed was to get worlds out from my body. The dark is too dark, so I have the kitchen light on all night. It wraps around your throat with knots you can't slip out. It takes away sun and clouds that children look up for evidence of warmth and light. The beauty is too beautiful, like still life scenes hanging on walls, like the butts of candles in the silver candelabra that talk silently about the old world near the vase with messy flowers on it made of opaque blouse and frilly collar. A flower of little trumpets painting, cascading down, going down a mountain. The delicate petals of tissue paper, a pretty gray pink, the prayer of an 8-year-old girl's heart. I walked in on a well-loved rag doll whose head rests on the elbow of a pretty girl's arm. Under blue bruised eyelids, the world darker. And here's some poems from my new collection under Private Sky. It's about a child going through a less than perfect childhood, and it's about the healing and growth from that. Where am I in the world and where did I come from? I don't remember, partly because birth was painful, partly because I just don't remember. It was long ago and new lives override the poor lives you lead. The full house is true if the empty house is. I need to know the world to know where I am. That's God's job. And scribbles of a child. In the bathroom, her legs dangling high off the ground, off a tree, clipboard in lap, pencil in hand. She felt the moment round and sensuous, ready to stretch into a mountain. From the depths of her sea, the tasty worth of the human soul on her fingers and lips, lost in the hearts and minds of others. She gathered herself in with a fishing net, sailing to the ends of the earth, not by boat, but by what is invisible and free of form, squeezing with the wind between the cracks, flying with the freedom of birds, her scribbles pouring out meaning more than words. These little words were already written. I can't change them even if I tried. The moon would know, the sun would put out a strong arm and say, stop. The sea's waves would rise and override them, surely rise and overthrow them to intimidate me to be a scribe. For what is in the air, what is in silence, but has never been given life, what has never been given sound in words or in music, the most beautiful order of sound. Only if we listen with our eyes and ears and nostrils, those words are thrown upon us. Stories. Stories may hold life by the teeth, you know, tucked away like stolen pieces of truth, delivered from a mouth or movement or lack of song or movement or shadow from long ago. Stories packed away in the body's cavities, the closet's crannies, wherever room may be, beneath the right shoulder or in the heart, when like a hollow tree or without blossom to attract the bees. We often must break to heal. Stories opening down rivers, pooling into red seas and knees or in the soles of bottoms of feet like little fish. Stories abridged into little moments, separating from the origin, pouring out into the sky, absorbed by love and light, tucked in small pockets of wind that can soothe and mend into a silky strand of an ear full of hope. A thousand setting suns. In youth, I was fond of the feral beauty of the wolf, until I saw the deer carcasses scattered like shells in the sand. They always got the peaceful deer in the ecstatic party of the moonlight. I liked the boundless sea, which always triumphed human activity and immediate greatness, but not its tumultuous waters that engulf ships and vessels and swallows things whole. This is the human condition, I once thought, to love and hate the same world all at once, the same moment, place, time, and self, to resist partition and forge all sides together from an ancient act of bravery. That mysterious place in the human spirit where exists the root of all things, like tenacity, gentleness of heart, and a thousand setting suns. This old world is still more beautiful than I can imagine, still more than my eyes can let in, always budding with youth, always full of wisdom. The buckthorn prickles us along the way, crept invasively in. I wonder how long it takes before the beauty in its colors takes over its spot again. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Julie. That was very beautiful. Thanks to all the poets that read tonight. Thanks to Valerie Lockhart with Minneapolis Television Network for putting this on. Thanks to all of you for watching. Have a wonderful night.